Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Logocentric. My name is Daxton Page, and today we are going to be talking about the documentary on Netflix, The Social Dilemma. So this documentary was pretty interesting. When I watched this, I actually was already interested in the subject matter prior to having seen this. I've done a lot of research about big tech censorship and algorithmic operations on my own. I even wrote a song about it with my band. These are types of things I've already been interested in for years, and I've been really interested in how AI can potentially be a really bad tool. I mean, I think there's obviously very positive things about AI that could be developed, and I'm not completely pessimistic about AI, but I am pretty skeptical that we have it under control right now or that it's operating as efficiently as it could be in terms of ethical practices and behaviors. So, the social dilemma, I want to get into a few things. So, one of the issues that I feel like bleeds into this documentary is whether Facebook is a private company or not, or whether it's been deemed to be something that's in the public square. Now, I think that is something that is a legitimate conversation to have, and it's sort of something we needed to figure out. Like, when does a technology become public goods kind of territory and starts to leave the private sector? For instance, electricity. Eventually, it had to be, this technology was brand new, and it had to be, what would you say, converted into a public good type of thing where no one can be denied electricity based on, like, ideologically driven terms of services. Like, you can't deny, like, for instance, there's the whole argument of whether a private business can deny service to particular people. For instance, whether a bakery, is able to bake a cake or should have to bake a cake for someone who they conflict with ideologically. So if a Christian has to make a gay wedding cake or things of that nature. This has been a conversation. I'm not really here to weigh in on that sort of thing, but it's sort of something we need to have a discussion about, and we need to find out the delineating line that exists between when a technology becomes so pervasive in public use that it has become indistinguishable from a public good. What is something that is a public good? I think, like I said, electricity, the police department, things like this. These are, or water, running water. These are public goods. They're not commodities that, for instance, Enron wanted electricity and energy to be like an open market that was exposed to volatility. And it's like, man, it's way too expensive on the average person, and you could actually price the average person out of electricity, as opposed to right now we're in a public good area with electricity, and it's pretty much affordable for everybody who makes a relatively, even small amount of money can pretty much afford electricity. They may not be able to afford rent and things on top of that, but they can at least keep the lights on. So Facebook is effectively free for the user, but advertisers are the main, what would you call it, consumer. We are the product, and the customer is the advertiser, because we spend so much time in this public square. It's basically like, it's almost like we sit in a actual park. So people start putting billboards around the park because they know that's where our attention is, because everyone's spending all their time at the park. So I can construct billboards around the park, sometimes inside the park, that help advertise my business. That's effectively what Facebook advertisers are doing now. We're in a public square, we're having conversations, we're sharing our personal lives, and so what advertisers are doing is they're paying to be exposed into a public square. But what's happening is Facebook and Twitter, Google, these companies are actually being treated and are trying to be treated as private sector companies, which I don't think they can technically say that they are anymore. I think maybe there was a bit of an argument for that when they were in their first earlier kind of, part of their development, but at this point, and their usage has become so widespread, it is almost indistinguishable from the, what would you call it? It's almost an analogy. It's a modern analogy to people getting electricity into their homes en masse, right? And so is it really ethical to make a market like electricity for, say, private? I don't think it is. And so effectively what has happened is Facebook, for instance, and Pinterest and all these other, Instagram, these other kind of social platforms, YouTube included, their main thing that they're trying to get from us is our attention, right? So how many hours can they get us to spend on these devices? Now, I'm going to say I am guilty. I spend way too much time on YouTube. I make YouTube content. I've made YouTube content since YouTube came out. Like, I remember making YouTube content when I was in elementary school, making stupid like stunt videos with my friends and stupid sketch videos. I've had like tens and like, I don't want to say hundreds. I haven't had hundreds of YouTube channels, but I've had at least 10 or 20 YouTube channels in my lifetime. So I have spent a lot of time on YouTube because I feel like it's a great, it has potential to be one of the greatest technologies. It's going to replace TV, I think, eventually. We're even seeing companies like Apple and Disney start to switch over to things that look more like Netflix, right? But Netflix to me is just it's the YouTube of movies. You know, so you can't really watch full movies that much anymore because of copyright claims on YouTube, but you can effectively do that on Netflix. So Netflix is just YouTube for movies, and so Apple is trying to duplicate that sort of YouTube for movies thing, and they also have, you know, streaming services for music as well. So what I'm getting into, excuse me, let me get a drink here. The widespread usage of Facebook and Instagram has garnered one of the most valuable assets from people, and that's their attention. And advertisers know that. And so effectively, Facebook is selling your attention to advertisers because they want you to click on ads and spend money on things, right? And go spend more time on Facebook, spend more time on Instagram. Now, the thing is, there are psychological tools at play, as the documentary discusses, that are immediately involved in your participation with the app. And so what that means is the very fact that you have to swipe down and that refreshes your feed and you get something new, that psychological reinforcement is almost identical to the psychological reinforcement schedules that you get with levers on slot machines, right? So it's effectively that Vegas psychology style manipulation is being implemented on anybody who's on Facebook, who's on Instagram, anybody who's on Twitter, anybody who's on YouTube, because they all have this swipe down, get new content thing. That is a reinforcement psychologically that can lead to it's like the mice hitting the lever for the dopamine kick. So it could get, you know, that's the same thing. We're just getting a dopamine kick every time we do that. And so there are psychological tools that are being reinforced. Basically, they're learning your patterns of behavior. So if you, for instance, stay longer on one type of image, they're going to figure out what kind of image was that you stayed on there longer. So now I know what type of images to show you so that you have a higher probability of staying on the app longer, right? So it's trying to learn what you would do and then modify your behavior so that you will continue to seek out things on the app. Not that you'll actually do things that are valuable for your life or for your free time, but things that will keep you more involved, more engaged, that's the key word, with the app, okay? So the main thing that is an issue here is that we have manipulation-based technology, as the documentary refers to it, instead of tool-based technology. At first, we could kind of think of Facebook as a tool-based technology because it was just a way for you to get things out to your friends. We hadn't developed all these psychological dependencies, you could say, with our devices. And what are those type of things that I'm talking about? Those are things like whenever, and I've noticed this in myself, so I'm not excluding myself from anybody in this category. I know everybody I know suffers from this. The second you feel bored, the second you feel lonely, the second you feel anxious, the second you feel depressed, anytime we experience these kind of emotions, the thing that we do to comfort ourselves is grab our phone and check what's going on our Facebook, see if we have anything, right? See if there's any notifications, see if anybody's messaged us, right? These type of things, right? Now, if you have your notifications turned on your phone, you're getting alerted all day. Hey, you got a comment. Hey, your friend's on. Hey. Turn that off. By the way, I'm just going to turn that off. Turn your notifications off. Have set times that you view your Facebook, your Twitter, your YouTube, your email, all those type of things. Have set times that you view them. Don't just like, oh, whenever I get a notification, I'll check it out, because then you're going to be checking it out all the time. You'll spend 3 hours a day on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, Pinterest, Tumblr, Reddit, whatever you want to name it. You can spend so much time on social media and waste your life on this kind of stuff, man. Like, this is where I think the documentary points out something pretty intense, is that we have younger generations of people that are growing up on these devices and developing the same kind of neuroses that we are experiencing as adults, having used the devices for about 10 years now. And we're expecting that our kids are going to evolve to be better at this, because here's the little thing. Everyone's like, oh, we'll evolve to live with this technology. If someone says that to you, they don't know what they're talking about. Because if you know anything about evolution, you know that evolution deals in time spans of hundreds of thousands to millions or even hundreds of millions of years. Okay? Evolution takes time we don't have. Okay? If we're trying to say that we'll figure it out along the way, we'll learn how to evolve along the way, just winging it, having, the private sector, and I am a free market advocate. Do not get me wrong here. I love the free market, okay? But I do think we are seeing something where something has crossed over into the public square and it is still trying to be represented as private, and that private representation of the company is being used as a way so that it can manipulate its users for profit. There it goes. So what we need to do effectively is it's twofold. We need to have legal action that sort of, takes action against these companies to designate them as public squares. Yeah, that's going to kill a lot of profit for the people who are the shareholders for those companies. The profits of all these people have been fueled by technology that's been used to manipulate me. So forgive me if I don't give a shit whether they lose their profits or not. Just like with Enron, when they manipulated the stock market and took people's pensions and basically gave people $4,000 to say, here, oh, there's what's left of your pension. To say that you would give a shit about Enron's profits, in that circumstance, everyone would look at you like you're crazy. And we're dealing with the same sort of level of criminality, I think. Now, they're not, going out and defrauding, pension funds. That's not what Facebook is doing. But what they're also doing is, or not what they're also doing. What they are doing is they're creating psychological harm on your kids and on you. Right? The very fact that you're watching this on YouTube, hopefully you have not been on YouTube very long today or, this past week. I hope you have kept it to somewhere around an hour and a half, 2 hours if you really need social media to function in your business, right? Like me, I'm an entrepreneur. I use some of these sites to promote. That forces me to view these things as tools. That's almost one of the weapons I would say we have against these, but in a sense, I don't know if it's a cure-all, because saying that okay, the people are the customers and the people are not the customers, the people are the products, and the advertisers are the customers, to say that the solution is just to then become an advertiser, that's not what I'm saying the solution should be. But what I'm saying a solution could be is that if in your own life you have a entrepreneurial venture that you want to pursue, you're going to need to use social media. So now take all your personal time you had with social media and cut it out and view it only through the lens of, well, am I promoting my entrepreneurial venture, or am I spreading good into the world? Don't spend too much time, worrying about X news and Y this and Z that. It's a waste of time, right? Use social media as a tool to help you get things done, to help you reach your goals, right? And if you want to know how to reach your goals a little bit better, I have a video about that talks about some of the myths of motivation. You can check out that card there. But really, if you want to get your goals accomplished, spending all your time on social media is not going to help that. But if you can view that time on social media and you can sort of reverse engineer it and think, okay, well, how can I use this time to help me actually be productive? Now you're taking control of the technology instead of the other way around. But let me warn you, you're staring at a supercomputer, okay? When you're looking at your Facebook newsfeed and your Instagram newsfeed, you're staring at a supercomputer that's looking right back at you, trying to determine your patterns and behavior. So to think that you're going to outsmart your algorithm and completely be in control of all this stuff is actually a little bit foolhardy. So what I would say is you have to go the little bit extra mile and do a couple things that Jonathan Haidt recommends in the documentary. So limit your screen time to a set number. I already talked about that. Also, get your iPhones, your smartphones out of the bedroom 30 minutes before you go to bed. One thing I would recommend doing is if you use your phone as an alarm, get a standard alarm clock. And if you like to have I like my music to wake me up, and so I have an app on my phone that allows me, fine. Okay, but put your, for instance, what I would do is I have a bedroom and then the hallway is right there and there's a table in the hallway. And so what I would do is set my phone on this table in the hallway at night. And so when I woke up, I would hear this going off in the in this hallway, and it would wake me up. but it's not it's not here. I'm not going to just wake up, stay in bed, and be on my phone and waste 30 minutes there, right? That's a way you can still be woken up by Dreams by Fleetwood Mac if you want to, but you can still, be more productive with your sleep. Because one thing that's actually really important about sleep in general is the lack of light and the lack of electricity and electrical things in your bedroom. Like, I'd actually recommend that you get a TV out of your bedroom. I was not able to negotiate that with my wife, so I do have a TV in my bedroom. Disclaimer. I didn't want one in there. I get it's convenient sometimes, but I would honestly rather not have a TV in my bedroom and have no electrical devices other than basically an alarm clock. But I have to make compromises because I am married, and that's what being married is about making compromises. But honestly, work around your normal habits so that you can actually do some of these things and implement them, because I think it's going to be beneficial for your psychological well-being. If it tells you anything, the people who created these things don't let their kids have them, right? Most are, and they're complete, in their own words, zealots about it, or zealots, if you like to say it that way. They're completely tyrannical to their kids. You are not allowed that much at all, hardly at all screen time with these devices. And so that should tell you something. If I sold you water that I wouldn't drink, would you buy it? If I'm giving you access to energy that I don't use to power my home because I don't think it's good energy, why would you buy it from me? Right? Because I'm not using it. I'm not practicing what I preach. So these people in social media, they like to market, oh, we're trying to open up the conversation, make it more inclusive. We're trying to make everything better. But if you look at, well, would you give this to your kids? They're like, no, I'd never give this to my kids. It's like, well, then why should we? You're telling us to get our kids on the platform and get them in the conversation. And I've even heard people talk about getting younger and younger people to vote, but somehow you won't give that to your kids. You want everyone else's kids to have it so you can keep an eye on them and you can profit off them, but you don't want them on your kids. It's strange how that works sometimes. So I'll end it on my final thoughts about the documentary and the points that were raised inside the documentary. I thought that the criticism of big tech has been long overdue, and to see it from a lot of people who founded some of these ideas that were initially good intentioned turned pathological, and hear them talk about, well, you should be worried, and here's why you should be worried. It's something good to watch. And so I'm trying not to give out any spoilers. I tried to be as secretive about the contents of the actual documentary so that I didn't just ruin it for you. But, please go watch it, and you'll learn a lot about this conversation that needs to be had about the future of social media platforms and what role they actually play into our lives. We've actually seen, and this is one little tidbit from the documentary, how there was a country, I forget the country, forgive me, you'll watch the documentary, you'll see it. They had the only social media app they had on their phones, and it came preloaded on their phones, was Facebook. And within 6 months to a year, there was a complete breakdown in civil communication, and a straight up civil war had broke out. Where 700,000 Muslims, I think, had to leave a particular country. It was insane. Okay, so these devices inherently thrive off division, because division makes you engage with the platform. And if they're only concerned about engagement, well, then they're going to show you stuff that makes you angry or sad or mad or just any sort of emotion they can arise out of you to get you to stay on the platform longer. And so I would just recommend, try to implement those few things. Having a set amount of time that you're on your devices, that you're on social media in particular. That's the big harmful thing here. It's not just that when your friend messages you on your iMessage or whatever. That's not as big of a deal as Facebook constantly, hey, come to the app, view some stuff, view a notification, your friend's doing this, your friend's doing that. That stuff's what's harmful. So turn off your notifications so you're not getting bugged to death, and you're in control of when you go view those things, and you're not constantly being nudged, So turn that stuff off, set an amount of time that you can be on those things, and then out of that, just keep it out of the bedroom at night so it doesn't disrupt your sleep, because you need sleep, because sleep makes you think more clearly, it makes you have more energy. It's just good to get some sleep. I even tell my guitar and bass and drum students the same thing. I can tell that school's kicking back up now in October, and they're getting through the lesson because they've spent all day at school and stuff. So I'm like, hey, get some sleep, because I remember being your age and playing video games all night and ruining my sleep. So, and watching TV shows all night. And now you can just be on your phone all night. You could be on your phone till 4 a.m. every night nowadays. So that's a big thing. Get some sleep, damn it. All right, that's it for this episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Go check out that documentary if you haven't seen it already. And if you have seen it, give me your thoughts in the comment section. Do you think I was way off? Did you get a totally different impression from the documentary? Please let me know. I'd like to get a little conversation going up in the comments. Also, please make sure to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified when content just like this comes out. And join the community over at Locals and ThinkSpot. We're having conversations there that I don't typically have here because they'd be too long-winded. As you notice, I like to keep my videos somewhere between like 15 to 30 minutes, and then I have a really long episode. If I have an interview, I'll go an hour or something like that. But I really don't like to make my videos too long because honestly, I understand the effect of having spent too much time on social media. So I don't want to preach to you that it's like, it's so bad to be on social media, but go watch this 3-hour interview that I did with blah, blah, blah that's going to keep you on the platform even long. So I like to have my videos kind of to the point, about 15 to 30 minutes each time. So that's all I have for you guys today. I'm Logocentric. Thanks for watching.